I've been doing my art form since the 1980s. Started off as a kid. Did not have money to buy the toys. And back in the 80s, you really didn't get toys that looked exactly like the cartoon. And that's what I wanted to play with, the stuff that I saw on the cartoons. So I began to make them. True enough, they didn't look like the cartoons because at the time I was using lined paper and no coloring. I used ballpoint pen to draw out the. I eventually created the toys that I wanted to play with. Uh, the process to create my art is very long. It usually takes me about a month, but that's probably because I also work a job. If I didn't, maybe it would take two to 3 weeks, but it still takes a lot of time. I've never clocked the hours, but you just put two and two together, and a month's worth of time, counting for sleep, counting for work, counting for social life. I'm kind of driven at doing it. So as you can see, this this is this is 6 years worth of work. Uh, it evolved. It didn't stay the same. I always try to improve, which goes into me not finishing a lot of things because I was always pumped up to start the next one. I always used to say it was my motto: my best one is the next one. So I used to always be looking forward to creating that new piece of art too much instead of concentrating on the task at hand. I think I got better at that. I finish more pieces of work now, uh, but it took a long time to gain that level of patience to do that. Because believe me, anyone can do this. It's just that you have to be patient when doing it. I would say playing with whatever I created was the prime motivation for making them. I wanted to make them move like I did. So, I mean, I was kind of weird as a kid, I guess. I thought that they would come to life watching too many movies, I guess. So I tried to make them able to move like I did, so that if they did walk around, they would be capable of doing that. That was trial and error. Uh, Eventually got better at it, but it was a painstaking process because of the frustration that would come behind me failing to do what I wanted to do. I didn't really know how to do it. I just kind of figured it out as I went along. There was nobody that taught me anything that I was trying to do because at the time I was the only person that I knew that was doing it. And of course, there's the on the opposite end of the motivation, there were the failures. And as a child, I can remember not really taking well to failure. I would throw temper tantrums, I'd crush them. And then after I got done crushing them, I would I would cry afterward because all the hours that I put into it, I ended up crushing it, which was pretty much defeated the purpose. But as time went on, I matured and I stopped doing that. In the beginning, they were pretty simple. I went from lined paper to typing paper, which the people that bought the typing paper didn't like too much because I used a lot of it. Then I moved to Walgreens paper. Walgreens is a drugstore that we used to have, and they sold like, I think 5 different kind of colors. There was neon, there was red, there was green, there was blue, and there was white. Eventually, when I got serious about it, I started going to art stores, and I was amazed at the amount of the colors of different kind, the different kind of colors of paper that they had. I have noticed that there are other people that do what I do, but I would say that I'm more of a sculptor than somebody that draws out the detail. Because I really don't like two-dimensional art. I mean, I admire the illusion you create as far as depth and detail, but I'm kind of a sculpting purist because the three dimensions just naturally come when you sculpt something. I mean, for instance, if you were to paint someone, you have to use a lot of shade and shadow to create the illusion of depth perception. But with sculpting, it kind of just creates itself to where I don't have to go through those illusions to achieve my goal. In the beginning, my joints, as far as the articulation and the movement, it was in its infant stages. I can remember that like right now, of course, the way you move, your arms can move like this. But in the beginning, I had a rod going across the chest, and the arms used to move like this. And that's just one example on how I got better at joint articulation. My earlier versions of my art, they couldn't stand on their own, which frustrated me a lot. I'm not into measuring things out. That's getting a little bit too technical for me. So I created what you call the law of two. The law of two, you just take two pieces of paper, put them up against each other, and just cut from there so that they match. And if you do that during the whole process of constructing your legs, and everything else for that matter, because when you create balance, you have to create balance in the whole in the whole body of what you're trying to make. So the law of two pretty much keeps you in line with balance once you try to stand them up. And if it variates because of the paper hinges that you have to make in between the body parts, you can always, what I call them, it's just layering paper on the bottom as needed. And usually you don't miss your mark too much when you're using the law of two. You can achieve that balance, and no matter how heavy they are, you can always stand them in them. They'll stand on their own. Which brings me into tensioning. I've noticed that some people use tape in the middle of the hinges, and when you have that sliding action to create the movement. I'm not a real big fan of that because that will get in the way of your tensioning. Tensioning is you sliding single pieces of cut out paper. You cut it out, because when you look at the hinge, you can see spaces that are in there, and over time, those spaces will get bigger. So you just cut out the size that you need, and you slide them in there, and then you glue it down to one side, and then you'll notice that the hinge will get tighter. And it also provides maintenance, because if you want to keep them around for a while, you'll have to do this maintenance if you want to keep moving it. Like if you want to show someone that it can move and you keep moving it, eventually it will get looser. But you can always combat that by creating tensioners, which ultimately helps out on balance. Tensioning and balance work together to make the construct stand, no matter how heavy it is. Because I noticed there were people on YouTube saying that, like if it's too heavy, it won't stand. And that's not true. You can create that balance by the law of two and tensioning. In the beginning, I used to create tubes, just cut out little tubes for hands so that they can hold guns, because of course those accessories were needed when you were playing with toys as a kid. I eventually over time got away from that because I wanted the articulation of the movement in each single digit in your hand. It took time, and it's very detailed, and it takes a long time to do, but the outcome is very, very satisfying. And the smaller you go with hands, the more painstaking it is, unless you have very tiny hands like I do. I've been often asked the question, do I layer the paper over action figures that are already created, like toy action figures? I'm not a fan of that. That's cheating the art. I'm a purist when it comes to the art form of movable paper crafting, and I've never actually even thought of that. Like, because that's not something. For one, I didn't have the money to pay for the action figures, and two, I if I had the action figures, I don't think that I would be layering paper over it. But teach his own. If that was a way that you could kind of get your vision into 3 dimensions so you can hold it, I can't knock it. But like I said, I'm a purist, and that's what I call cheating the art form, and I don't do that. I respect it too much. Art is very important to me. It's a release. It occupies dead time. Um, I'm able to grow at something, and it's a lot better than just vegging out, watching TV or whatever people do nowadays. It's just really satisfying, and it's the reason why I came up with the slogan of "It's not the destination, it's the journey." I don't know if somebody else came up with that, but that's the way I feel. Because the journey is the part that occupies the time, the experience that you have to go through to get to that destination, and that's very fulfilling for me. In closing, I'd like to say anyone can do this art form. It doesn't require a lot of money. I've walked into art stores and I stand in line and I'm amazed at what the people are paying in line for art supplies. It's hundreds of dollars sometimes. I don't think it should cost that much for someone to express themselves artistically. It's not necessary in my world. I often refer to my art as the poor man's art. You know, it's immensely satisfying. The level of gratification that you get from doing my form of art, to me, it's better than you going out and paying hundreds of dollars or whatever to buy art supplies. Art to me is simple. With my art, there are no templates, there are no instructions. What this video and what my channel is for, it's providing you with the fundamentals to create these pieces, but it's up to you to kind of carry it further. Because since there are no instructions or no templates, you can make what you want. You can make anything you want. Like, there's not a mark that I have not hit. At least recently. I mean, there were times when I was kind of, I couldn't make things. I wouldn't hit my mark. But through experience and practice, I can pretty much hit any mark that I want to now. If it's there, I can make it. In closing, this video is strictly a guideline. It's a guideline to make movable paper art. Everything moves, even down to the eyelids, the toes, the fingers, the mouth opens and closes, up to adding LED lights to whatever paper construct you want to make. And they last years. I mean, I still have stuff from over 10 years ago, and it's not in the best shape because I really did not think about keeping them. I just, like I said before, my motto was the best one is the next one. So I often didn't take care of older ones. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any comments or what motivates you as an artist, please comment in the section below. And thank you very much.